He didn't hear the barn door open, didn't hear it close either, just felt it. That off-tilt quiet, like the air had paused. He stepped through with the feed bucket in one hand, boot steps slow, and measured across the packed dirt. The horses weren't restless. They didn't spook, but they weren't chewing either. She was in the far corner, near the hay bales, curled in the dark like she'd grown out of the wall, knees drawn up, arms wrapped tight, head tilted like she was listening to something deep inside the wood. He stopped just short of her. "You hurt?" She didn't move. "Girl, you hurt?" She flinched, but not from fear, like the voice pulled her back from somewhere else. "No." He crouched, got his first good look, mud on her dress, scratches on her shins, blood under one fingernail. "You run off?" She blinked, slowly. "No." "You got a name?" "Nothing." He stood. "You need water?" A pause, then a nod. He brought the canteen from the fence post. "Hold it out." She didn't take it. He crouched again, unscrewed the lid, held it to her lips. She drank fast. Cough. Drank again. "Is that your blood?" She shook her head. "Then whose?" Another blink. Another silence. Then, "Not mine." He sat back. I watched her rub her palms on her dress. They left darker smears. "You've been sleeping out here?" "Just now." "Where were you before?" She looked toward the rafters. Not at him. Not at the door. "Papa said I was supposed to wait." "Wait for who?" "Whoever came." He wiped his hands on his jeans. I stood up again. "I'll get the sheriff." "No." That came fast. Firm. She stood, wobbling, like her legs didn't believe her mouth. "You can't." "Why not?" "They'll send me back." "Back where?" She looked toward the hay bales, then the shadows. "To the other place." He sighed, scratched his jaw. "I don't know what this is, girl." "But you don't belong in my barn. I didn't pick it." "Well, it ain't a place to sleep. Not safe with the tools. Not warm enough either. I know." "Are you cold?" "No." "Are you hungry?" She nodded. Once. He motioned toward the house. She didn't move. "You trust me?" She shook her head. "Didn't think so." He walked to the door. It opened wide. "You can see the stove from here. You stay outside if it feels wrong. I'll bring bread and beans." She followed. Not close, not scared, just slow, watching everything like she might need to name it later. He lit the stove, set the pot on, opened the bread tin. She stayed on the porch, eyes flicking between the windows and the tree line. He handed her a plate through the screen door. She didn't thank him, just sat down, knees to chest, and ate. "Where's your mama?" "Gone." "Gone how?" "She left." "You sure?" "Yes." "You see her leave?" "No." "Then how do you know?" "Papa said." He leaned against the doorframe. "What's your papa's name?" She chewed, swallowed. "I don't know." "You don't know your own daddy's name?" "He said it didn't matter." "Girl, it always matters." She set the plate down. "He told me just to wait." "So I did. Till you came." "You know my name?" "No." "You were waiting in my barn." "I didn't pick it." "That's what you said before." "I say the truth." He looked at the woods, thought about the road past the creek. Nobody lived back there anymore. Not for years. "You walked far?" She nodded. "Alone?" "Yes." "At night?" "Yes." "What did you see?" "Nothing." "Then how'd you find the barn?" She looked at her plate, then at the dirt. "It was on the map." "What map?" Her hand went to her side, under her dress. She pulled something small and folded. He stepped forward, slow, took it gently, unfolded. It was rough paper. Child's drawing. A crooked barn, a crooked house, a tree with no leaves, and an X. The X was right where the barn should be. "You draw this?" "No." "Who did?" She looked at him, for the first time, really looked. "Same one who told me to wait." "Your papa." She didn't nod, didn't blink, just stared. He folded the paper again, pocketed it. "We'll talk more in the morning." "I don't sleep." "You'll try." "I hear her when I sleep." "Who?" She stood, brushed her hands off. "Mama." He pointed to the couch. "You stay there." "You hear anything, you wake me. You hear nothing, you sleep." She walked in, slow, sat on the couch, pulled the blanket over her knees. He watched her. I watched her not blink, not yawn, just sit. He turned off the light, but long after the dark filled the room, she was still whispering, still praying. And the words weren't English. He poured a second cup of coffee, placed it on the table in front of her. She didn't touch it, just stared at the steam like it was something dying. Her dress had dried stiff. The mud flakes left patterns on the floor. "You sleep?" he asked. "No." "Why not?" "I don't like it." "Most folks don't." "I hear things." He set his own mug down. "Like what?" She didn't answer, just pulled the blanket tighter over her knees. "You got a fever?" "No." "Are you cold?" "No." "Still hungry?" She nodded. He cracked eggs into the pan, fried them quietly, toasted bread, set the plate down. She ate with small bites, like she hadn't been raised to eat fast, just alone. "Are you ready to tell me your name yet?" She looked up. "I told you." "It doesn't matter. It matters to me." She wiped her mouth with her sleeve. "I don't have it anymore." "What does that mean?" "It was taken." He sat across from her. "By who?" "Same man who buried Mama." He didn't ask more. Not then. Just watched her eat. When she was done, he took the plate, rinsed it slowly, dried it. Then he picked up the receiver, dialed the sheriff's station. The girl stood behind him, quiet as breath. Ringing. More ringing. Then a click. "Yeah?" "It's me," he said. Pause. "What's the problem?" "I got a girl here. Found her in my barn. Might be lost. Says she doesn't sleep. Doesn't name herself." The sheriff exhaled. Long. "Tell me she's not wearing red." He looked over. The dress was dirt-colored, maybe once white, but the edges near her neck, there were reddish streaks. "She's muddy," he said. "Could be." "Where's she from?" "Won't say." The sheriff clicked his teeth. "I'll send someone out." "When?" Silence. "I said I'll send someone." The line went dead. He hung up slowly. I looked at her. "You hear that?" She nodded. "He won't come," she said. "You know him?" "No. But I know how men speak when they lie." He stepped past her, got his coat. "You're not leaving me here," she said. "I'm checking the fence." "Won't be long." She followed, didn't ask, just kept pace. They walked the property. He checked the wire. Nothing cut, nothing strange, until they reached the back post. The phone line ran low from the tree to the wall, or used to. Now it hangs slack. The wire had been clipped clean. He crouched, picked up the loose end. The copper inside had been pulled straight out. No chew marks, no rust. Fresh. He turned slow. She was standing by the tree, one hand on the bark, one hand holding something. "What's that?" he asked. She opened her palm. A piece of cloth. Black, burned at the edge. "Where did you get that?" "Fence." "What is it?" "Used to be part of a man's coat." "You sure?" She nodded. "Was it yours?" She looked him straight in the eye. "No, but it smelled like you." He stepped closer. I took it, brought it to his nose. Chapter. And something else. Grease. Smoke. Metal. "You saw someone?" "No." "Then how'd you find this?" "I followed the quiet." He didn't like how she said it, like she knew what kind of quiet he meant. They walked back to the house. The wind had picked up. The porch creaked like it hadn't in years. Inside, she sat near the stove. He made more coffee. "No sugar." "Do you have a family anywhere?" he asked. "No." "No one?" "Not anymore." "Have you ever been to school?" "Once." "You remember where?" "Downhill from a white church. With no bell. He stopped pouring. There ain't no church like that anymore." "I know." "You from around here?" "I've been through." "That doesn't answer me. I don't answer things that bite." "What bit you?" Her eyes didn't move, didn't flinch. People who smile when they don't mean it. He sipped. "Saturday. Why'd you come here?" "I didn't. You were in my barn." "It was on the map." "You said that already." "It's still true." "You drew that map?" "No." "Who did?" "Same one who named the places." "And who was that?" She stared at the stove. "I told you." "Papa, then what do I call you?" She blinked slowly. "You don't. You want me to just say, 'Hey girl,' forever?" She shrugged. "That's your problem." He stood. "Well, I got more than one." She didn't follow him this time, just stayed by the fire. Still. Outside, the wind was cutting through the boards. Something had shifted. The barn door was ajar. He hadn't left it that way. He crossed the yard fast, pulled it shut, latched it. Inside, the bales were still there. The tools. The rake leaned crooked like before, except the far wall had a mark. 3 handprints, small, red. He didn't call for her, didn't tell her, just stood there, listening. And for the first time, the barn didn't feel like it was his. She was asleep for once. Or pretending, curled up on the couch, blanket wrapped tight, face turned toward the fire's dull glow. He sat across from her, boots off, one hand still around the coffee cup gone cold. He hadn't slept. Too much in his head, too much in the barn. The prints hadn't faded. He'd tried water, then bleach, but the red smeared deeper into the wood, like it had soaked in years ago, and only rose now because she was near. He glanced at her dress, dirty hem crusted at the edges. Looked like the kind of fabric that used to be white but lived too long in the dark. Something was off about how stiff it was at the bottom seam. He stood, stepped soft, crouched at her feet. He pressed 2 fingers along the seam line, felt a ridge, a corner. He reached into the kitchen drawer, pulled scissors, sat back down beside her and slid the blade along the inner stitching, slow and careful. The fabric split. Something crackled. He pulled out a strip of paper, folded small and flat. She didn't move. He unfolded it on the table, pressed the corners flat. It was a map, drawn by hand in thick pencil, bare trees, a crooked fence line, one road, unmarked. The barn sat center, scrawled and shaded, and just below it, to the right, a circle, 2 X's, one over his barn, one over something he hadn't thought about in years, the well behind the orchard. He heard the floor creak. She was sitting up now, watching him with eyes that didn't look surprised. "You were going to tell me?" he asked. She didn't blink. "I didn't want to lie." "So you kept it in your dress?" He held it up. "Why these 2 places?" She didn't look at the paper, just the window. That's where she started. That's where she ended. He folded it once, twice, set it down slowly. "You gonna explain that?" She shook her head. "No, but I'll show you. You're not setting foot near that well. Then you won't know." He stood. "You can't go digging in the past like it ain't buried for a reason." She didn't stand, just stared. Not everything buried is dead. He looked back at the paper. The old well. Hadn't touched it in over a decade. Used to toss apple cores in as a kid. Later, rocks. Then nothing. "Have you been there?" She nodded. "When?" "Before I came." "Why?" "Because she's still there." "Who?" Her voice didn't change. "My mama." He grabbed his coat. She followed. They walked past the fence line, past the orchard that hadn't bloomed in years. The grass cracked underfoot. Cold soil. Hard ground. The well sat crooked, half covered in dead vines, metal grate rusted across the top. He hadn't thought of it as a place that could hold anything. Now it felt like it might breathe. She stopped a few feet from it. She dropped the second letter down there. He turned. "What letter?" "The one she never meant for Papa to find." "You read it?" "I heard it." He moved to the grate, tugged. It was held. He kicked at the side. The bolt broke loose with a screech. He pulled the grate open and looked down. Nothing but black. "You bring a light?" she asked. "No." "You need one." He pulled out his phone, shined it down. At first, dirt, then brick, then something pale, a shape. He leaned closer, fabric, maybe a coat, maybe skin. He turned to her. "You knew that was there?" She didn't answer. "Tell me." "I didn't see it. I just remembered it. How the hell could you—" "I was here before," she said. "Not with you. With him." "Him who?" She looked toward the barn. "The man who looks like you but doesn't speak like you." He stood quiet. "There ain't no one else like me around here." She shook her head. "That's what scares me." He turned back to the well. The shape was still there, still waiting. He knelt. "Are you sure about this?" "Yes." "You want to leave it there?" "No." "You want me to pull it out?" "No." "Then what?" She stepped closer, held out her hand. "We wait." "For what?" She looked at the sky. For the one who put it there to come back. And somehow, that scared him more than anything inside the well. He snapped the last bolt with a crowbar. Rust sprayed his boots. The grate clanged against the side of the well, then slipped and thudded against the ground like it didn't want to be moved. She didn't flinch, just stood beside the apple tree with her hands tucked into the folds of her dress, watching like she'd seen this before. "You said she dropped a letter," he said. "This doesn't look like a letter." She didn't speak. He pulled out the flashlight. Clicked it on, shined it down. The beam hit the bricks first. Damp red, cracked from freeze and time. Then the bottom came into focus. Something pale. Fabric. Flesh. Or both. He knelt, leaning closer. A bundle, wrapped and knotted with cloth. Torn in places. And beside it, a shoe. Small. Leather split at the toe. Laces missing. Caked in red dust. He sat back on his heels. "You seein' this?" She nodded. "Tell me it ain't what I think." "It's not." "Then what the hell is it?" "It's where she started." "That doesn't explain nothing." "She told me to say that part first." "Who did?" "My mama." He kept the light pointed down. "You remember her saying that?" "I remember what she felt when she said it." "You don't remember her voice?" She shook her head. "Not when I'm awake." He rubbed his face. "You said you were here before." "I was." "When?" "Before the tree lost its leaves." "That was 2 winters ago." "I know." "You wasn't even—" "I was small," she said, "but not gone." He stood. "We can't leave that down there." "I didn't say to leave it." "You think the sheriff's gonna help?" "No." "You think I should go down?" She looked at him like it was a test. "You already did." "What's that mean?" She turned toward the orchard. "Nothing you don't already know." He stared back down. The cloth didn't move. Neither did the shoe. He got rope from the shed, lowered himself slowly, flashlight clamped between his teeth. The bricks were slick, cold. Every few feet one cracked under his boot. She watched from above, didn't say a word. When he reached the bottom, the smell hit first. Damp rot, something sour like forgotten rain. He knelt beside the cloth bundle, unwrapped the corner, hair, brown matted, not fresh, not skeletal either. He breathed out. "It's a body," he called. Silence. He turned the flashlight toward the shoe, lifted it, small, girl's size. The leather had a name scratched into the bottom, letters faint. LM. He stood, looked up. "Do you know anyone with those initials?" She didn't answer. "You hear me? Leah May." "Her name?" She nodded. "Your sister?" "No." "Then who?" "She used to wait with me. When Mama was quiet. When Papa was gone, he stared up at the sky. Why is she down here?" "She didn't wait long enough." He stared at the cloth bundle again. "You say that like it's a rule." "It is." He pulled the rope. I started climbing. Every grip made his arms burn. Every pull scraped his boots. When he reached the top, he sat in the grass and let the light roll from his hand. She sat beside him. "She was 7, she said." "You knew her?" "No, but I remember her name. Did your mama know?" "She's the one who whispered it." "Hi, Ice." Stared into the orchard. "How many names do you remember?" "Not enough." "You gonna keep finding more?" She shrugged. "If they show up." He pushed to his feet. "I'm calling the sheriff." "Don't care if he listens. He won't come." "I'll drag him." "You think that badge means something?" He stopped. "What badge?" She reached into her dress pocket, pulled out something wrapped in a kerchief. It opened slowly. It was tarnished, bent, but still a badge. Sheriff's star, dulled by time. He stepped forward. "Where'd you get that?" "Behind the stove." "In the wall." "That ain't—" "It's the old sheriff's. The one before the one who doesn't come." "How the hell do you—" "He came for Mama once, then never came back." He held the badge. I turned it over. Carved on the back. WHC. "Caldwell," he muttered. She nodded. He brought her a name. But Papa didn't like it. "You mean the badge?" "No." "The name." He stared at her. "What name?" "Mine." He waited. She stared down the well. "He called me Mara." And this time, he believed her. The mailbox was where the orchard ended, buried in dry weeds, rusted to the point it looked more like a grave marker than anything meant to hold messages. The flag was gone. The post leaned. No tracks led to it. No one had touched it in years. He didn't remember the last time he'd opened it, but today, she stood in front of it, arms crossed tight, as if she already knew what was inside. "Have you ever looked in there?" she asked. He shook his head. "Not since my daddy died." She didn't move. "It's time." He hesitated, then stepped forward and grabbed the bent handle. The metal groaned, sticking for a second before the rust cracked loose. The door creaked open. Inside were letters. Old, folded tight, yellowed at the corners. 7, maybe 8. He reached in, pulled them free, one at a time. Each envelope was sealed. Each was marked in heavy red ink. "Return to sender." He crouched in the weeds, laid them out in a row across his knee. The handwriting on all of them was the same. Neat, tight cursive like a schoolteacher might have used. Sharp angles, no smudges. "What the hell?" he muttered. He flipped one over. The address was familiar. Mr. Thomas Elwood, Rural Route 3. He stared at the name. His name was Elwood, but not Thomas. He was Jonah. Always had been. His father was Elwood, but Thomas didn't ring. He opened the flap slowly. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded in thirds, the ink still dark. "Tom, you didn't come back before the first frost. The child thinks you've gone to war, but I tell her you're just lost. Maybe if I say it enough, I'll believe it too." He blinked, sat back. Another letter. He tore it open. The well is full of stones now. It used to echo when I called down like it was still listening. Now, it's just dirt. If you ever meant to answer, you'd better speak loud. He looked at the girl. "You know who wrote these?" She nodded. "Mama did." He held up the envelope. "This ain't addressed to your mama." "No," she said. "It's from her." "All these are from her?" "Yes." "And you knew they were here?" She crouched beside him. "The orchard remembers things people bury." He stared at her. "Why's it got my last name?" "You think that matters more than the words inside?" "I don't go by Thomas." "You might have once." He grabbed another, tore it open, rougher this time. "I tried to bury your ring. The ground wouldn't take it. I left it in the barn instead, the one with the rocking chair you built when I was still soft with hope." He looked up. "What ring?" She pointed back toward the barn. "Top drawer, you keep it. You just don't wear it." He stood fast, hands tight around the letters. "No, I don't know what this is, or what you're doing, but—" She didn't flinch. "I'm not doing anything. I'm just showing you what's already yours." He stormed back toward the barn. She followed, slow. The mailbox stayed open, letters scattered in the grass behind them like feathers from a dead bird. Inside, he crossed to the corner desk. Pull open the drawer. Under receipts, nails, scraps of wire. There it was, a ring, tarnished silver, a thin scratch carved in the band. He held it in his palm. "I don't remember this." "Doesn't mean it ain't real." He turned to her. "Why now?" "Why me? Why here? You were the next name." "Next name on what?" She walked to the door, stood in the light like it hurt her. "There's a list. Mama wrote it." On the back of the map, he grabbed the map from the counter, flipped it. The paper was nearly blank except for faint indentations. He held it under the window's light. 3 names. Leah Mae Thomas Elwood Jonah, all crossed out except the last. "That's me," she nodded. "You're the end." "The end of what?" She walked out into the yard. He followed. "Tell me." She didn't speak until they reached the well. That mailbox was hers. She wrote every letter from inside that barn. Waiting. Waiting for who? She looked up at him. For the man who got her pregnant and promised not to leave. His throat dried. "I wasn't there." "She said you were." "I'd remember." "She said you forgot." On purpose, he stepped back. "That ain't true." "She said you were sweet once." "I don't know her." "She said your voice shook when you said her name." He turned away. "I looked down the well. The rope still swung faintly. She sent letters no one would carry," the girl said. "The land returned them, but not to her. To you." He looked back at the letters in his hand, the neat folds, the ink, the name. That wasn't his, but felt closer now than any name ever had. "She ever sent one for herself?" he asked. The girl paused, then nodded. "She left it in the grave." He turned slow. "Which grave?" She looked toward the orchard, the one with no stone, just roots. And somehow he already knew which one she meant. The truck came slow over the ridge, dull green, windows dark, no siren, no dust trail, just the groan of tires on gravel and the way the birds stopped singing the moment it appeared. He saw it from the porch, saw the girl see it too. She didn't flinch, didn't move, just stepped behind the post like she'd done this before. "That him?" she asked. He nodded. "Sheriff's truck. Same one he's had for years. He won't get out." "How do you know that?" "He never does." The truck rolled to a stop at the edge of the property, just past the fence line. Motor idling. The door shut. Jonah stepped off the porch. Slow. I walked to the end of the drive, hands empty. The girl stayed back, half hidden behind the porch rail, eyes sharp. The sheriff didn't move, just sat there. Jonah raised a hand. "Mornin'." The window stayed up. The engine kept humming. He walked closer, gravel cracking beneath his boots. Finally, the window creaked down halfway. Sheriff Darnell sat behind it, sunglasses on, jaw tight. "You got something you want to explain?" Jonah asked. The sheriff didn't blink. "Didn't expect you to call. I told you there was a girl." "She's still alive." "You say that like it's a problem." Darnell's lips pressed thin. "Should have burned that barn when we had the chance." Jonah stepped back. "What the hell's that mean?" "You know what it means." "I don't." "Are you sure about that?" "Dead sure." Darnell looked past him, toward the house, toward the porch. "She watching right now?" Jonah turned. The girl hadn't moved. Her face was blank. "She doesn't talk much," Jonah said. "But she remembers things. Too much, maybe. You want to come inside, hear it for yourself." Darnell's fingers tapped the steering wheel. "No. I'm fine right here. You ain't even gonna check." "Boy, I've seen more than I should. Ain't about to start poking old fires." "She says her mama knew you." Darnell's knuckles stiffened. "Say you came to the house once. I brought a badge. He didn't answer. She says you left something behind." Still silent. "She gave me a badge. Said it was yours." "No," Darnell muttered. "That wasn't mine. Says your initials were on the back." "That was the other one." "Sheriff Caldwell?" "He wasn't a sheriff when it happened." "Then what was he?" Darnell finally turned, looked Jonah straight in the face. "He was like you. Thought he could help, though a badge meant something. It doesn't. Not out here. Then what does? Land. Silence. What people are willing to forget." Jonah stepped to the side, crossed his arms. "You gonna tell me what happened or not?" Darnell looked at the wheel. "She shouldn't be back." "She didn't have a choice. She's the reason everything cracked." "No," Jonah said. "The silence is. You think this ends clean?" "I think it ends either way." The girls stepped off the porch. I walked slowly, no shoes, toes pressing into the dust. She stopped 10 feet behind Jonah. "She knows you," she said. Darnell didn't answer. "You're the one who took the letter." His hand froze mid-tap. "You brought Mama a letter." "Said it came from the courthouse, but it was empty." "I don't remember that," he said. "You do. You just don't want to." She stepped closer. "You told her she could stay if she stopped saying his name." "I didn't mean harm." "You said she was lucky she wasn't taken already." Darnell's eyes dropped. "You remember now," she said. "I was young. I did what they told me." "You watched," she said. "That's all you ever did." He rolled the window up halfway. "I came to warn you," he said to Jonah. "This road ends how it always ends, with people forgetting what's buried." Jonah leaned in. "You ain't warning me. You're scared." Darnell stared ahead. "I'm surviving." The window rolled all the way up. The truck backed down the drive slowly. No turn, no sirens. Just the sound of gravel hissing under tired wheels. The girl stood still, watched until the truck disappeared over the ridge. "He knows," she whispered. Jonah nodded. "He knows." They turned toward the barn together. Neither spoke. The light was starting to fade again, and the air felt heavier than before. The girl didn't ask him to follow. She just started walking, bare feet silent through the orchard, past the fallen fence, into the woods, where the trees grew close, and the sky got swallowed up. She didn't speak, didn't glance back, just moved, like someone heading home. He watched her from the edge of the tree line, then stepped off the path and went after her. "Are you sure about this?" he called. She kept walking. "These woods go deep," he said. "You even know what's out here?" "I remember where she used to hum." He caught up. Branches snapped beneath his boots, but she stepped around every root, every thorn, like the land still knew her feet. They walked in silence until the trail narrowed, then vanished. She pushed through a tangle of brush, came out the other side, and stood still. He followed slower. The light was thin back here, filtered through branches like old lace. The air was colder. The ground sloped and dipped in uneven waves, like something had shifted underneath. Then she stopped. In the center of the clearing, just past a fallen tree, was a patch of earth that dipped inward. Not a hole, not a mound, just a soft, collapsed shape in the dirt. No stone, no cross. He looked around. "What is this place?" She stepped forward. "It's the place they forgot." You said she waited. She knelt beside the sunken ground, laid her hand flat on the soil. That's where Mama waited. He walked to her. You remember this spot? She nodded. She told me to come here when it got quiet. When what got quiet? Everything. She stared at the dirt like it was breathing. She sat here with her knees drawn up and her hands over her ears. Said the silence was louder than the screams. He crouched. You were with her? I was supposed to be asleep. He looked at the trees, the way they curved inward like a bowl. No markers, he muttered. She wasn't a loud one. Who said that? Same men who took her name. You mean your father? She shook her head. He never had power. Just a mouth. He ran his hand over the ground. The dirt was soft, recently disturbed, but no animals, no grass, just stillness. You sure she's down there? She's not, she said. Not all of her. He stood. You want to dig? She looked up. Would it matter? He didn't answer. She stood too. She came out here after the barn got quiet. Said the wind didn't ask questions. You come with her? I stayed in the house. Drew on the walls. Waited for the stove to run cold. Did anyone come? No one ever came. Not until now. He stepped back, looked down at the shallow grave. Why now? He asked. Because the letters stopped coming back. He frowned. You said they were returned. They were. But not forever. What changed? You opened one. He didn't speak. She wrote the names like prayers. The girl said, one after the other. I hoped one would stick. He stared at the dirt. Why bury her here? She didn't want to be found. He looked at her. Or someone didn't want her found. She turned toward the woods. The mailman never came past the orchard. Mama said that was a blessing. She says why? Because the trees remembered. But people didn't. Jonah crouched again, ran his fingers through the dry grass, hit something hard, dug gently until he found it. A button, black, smooth. He held it up. Yours? She shook her head. Hers. He pocketed it. We should mark it, he said. She wouldn't want that. She deserves it anyway. She stared at him for a long time, then slowly nodded. They walked back through the woods, neither speaking. When they reached the edge of the orchard, the girl stopped. Tomorrow, she said. What about it? Tomorrow's the day she left. How do you know? I hear her steps at night. He looked back at the trees. Then we'll mark it in the morning. She nodded once. Good, she whispered. Then she turned, walked toward the porch, and left him standing there, alone, with the trees still watching. He found her by the woodshed just after sunrise. She was barefoot again, dragging something heavy across the ground. A trunk, wooden, scorched on one side. Its iron latch hung loose, blackened at the hinges like it had been half swallowed by a fire long ago, and spat back out. He walked to her, brushing sleep from his eyes. Where'd you get that? She didn't look up. Behind the shed. Buried under tarps. That ain't been touched in years. I know. You open it? No, I thought it was yours. It's not. She stopped dragging. Then maybe it's hers. He crouched beside it, ran a hand over the lid. Dust and ash clung to the grain, something sticky under his palm. He opened it slowly. Inside, fabric, charred dresses, a child's cardigan, pink once, melted lace. Beneath that, scorched paper, too black to read, something metal, bent hairpins, a cracked comb, one small shoe, melted at the toe. The smell hit next. Not rot, not time. Something fouler, burned oil, and something else. He shut the lid fast. What the hell is this? Her voice didn't shake. It's where she put the things she didn't want to remember. He stood. You knew this was in here? I remembered it. In a dream. I don't dream of things like this. You used to. He grabbed the trunk side and started dragging it toward the fire pit. She followed in silence. Are you sure about burning it? He asked. She kept it for years. Hide it. That means she didn't want it. That ain't always true. She didn't keep it inside. That tells you everything he didn't answer. He dumped the trunk into the fire ring, poured kerosene across the top, and lit a match. The first pop came fast. Then the smoke curled upward, thick, black, wrong. It didn't smell like wood. It didn't smell like cloth. It smelled like burning skin and old varnish and something chemical. He stepped back. She didn't. You feel that? She asked. What? The wind is pulling back. He stared at her. She stood too close to the smoke, face lit orange. "You should step back," he said. I already did. Years ago, he watched the fire chew through the lid, cracked the iron hinges, spit sparks high into the air. From inside, something sizzled, hissed, and then an awful pop, like something small and wet exploding. He turned to her. "What was that?" She didn't blink. "Hairbrush. Maybe teeth." "You're joking." "I don't joking." He stepped away. The smoke clung to his clothes, thick and bitter. "This ain't right." It never was. He looked at her again. "Why now? Why bring this to me today?" She didn't look at him. Just watch the flames. "You were supposed to come sooner." He swallowed hard. "What do you mean?" "Mama said if you came before the frost, the house might forgive you." "And if I didn't?" "She said the fire would be remembered instead." He stared at the burning trunk. "It's just wood and cloth." "No, it's her silence. All of it." The fire cracked, and something shifted inside the trunk. Something that didn't sound like it belonged in a fire. He stepped forward. "There's metal in there." "Yes." "You put it in?" "No." "She did. She tried to forget it. But metal doesn't rot." "What kind of metal?" "I don't know. But it's shaped like a man's promise." He stepped back again. I looked at her. "You're not making sense." "I'm not trying to." They watched the trunk burn until the lid collapsed and the sides caved in. The cloth went last. Ash blew sideways in the sudden wind. Something small rolled out of the fire pit, scorched black, still warm. He crouched. I picked it up. A necklace, the chain half melted, a charm at the end, the shape of a horseshoe. He held it in his palm. "I've seen this before." "Then you're closer than you think." "I gave this to someone." "Yes." He closed his hand. "Was it her?" "You tell me." He didn't answer. They stood in silence as the last of the trunk turned to ember. The smoke kept rising, but it didn't go straight up. It curled backward, into the trees, toward the well. He saw her watching it, eyes steady. "I think it's time," she said. "For what?" "For you to see what else she left behind." He turned to her. "And what about what I left?" "You'll find that too." They walked back to the house without speaking. The fire pit still smoked behind them, and the smell of hair lingered in the wind. He was reaching for the sugar when his elbow caught the edge of the flour tin. It toppled fast. Lid popped off, white dust spilling across the counter into the cracks between the wood. He muttered, tried to catch it, but it was too late. Flour everywhere. But it wasn't the mess that made him stop. Something inside the tin had clinked. Not the sound of glass, not a spoon. Something denser. He reached in, sifted through the powder. His fingers touched metal. He pulled it out slowly. It was a badge. Sheriff's star, bent on one edge. The surface blackened like it had been through a fire or buried in something damp for too long. The pin on the back was snapped. He stared at it, heart starting to thud. The girl had gone quiet. She stood across the room, one hand still on the back of the chair she hadn't sat in. "You know what that is?" he asked. She didn't answer, just tilted her head. He turned it over. There were letters scratched faintly on the back. "W.H.C. Caldwell," he whispered. She stepped closer. "It's not yours." "I never said it was." "You held it like it might be." He looked up. "Why the hell was it in the flour?" "You tell me." "I didn't put it there." She shrugged. "Then maybe he did." He laid the badge on the counter. "Sheriff Caldwell. He's the one who gave your mama the letter." She said he used to walk differently. Like he was new to his body. "Has he ever hurt her?" "No." That's what scared her. He blinked. "What?" She said the ones who don't hurt you, they always get taken first. He stared at the badge again. "You think he died out here?" "I think he never left." "You mean buried?" She pointed to the badge. "That's not burn damage. That's from dirt." He thought back to the well, the shoe, the cloth. Was it his body in the bottom? No. Then where is he? She turned to the window. Somewhere in the orchard, close enough to hear her scream. He stepped back, wiped his hands clean on a towel, though they were already shaking. "I would have remembered burying a badge, unless someone else used your hands. That ain't funny." "I wasn't trying to be." He walked to the sink, stared out past the porch rail. The orchard hadn't moved, hadn't shifted, but he felt something now, something under the soil. "You remember him?" he asked. "Not well. Just his whistle, 3 notes, over and over, like a bird that doesn't know more than one tune. Does your mama trust him?" She thought about it. Once, and then someone else knocked louder. He turned. Who? The girl didn't answer, just looked down at the badge again. He picked it up, felt the weight in his palm. Feels familiar. You wore one once, she said. No, I didn't. She stepped closer. You were 10. Playing dress-up. Found it in the shed. Said it made you someone who could protect things. His jaw tightened. You weren't there. I didn't have to be. You think I'm like him? She shook her head. You were never like him. Then who buried the badge? She pointed to the cabinet above the sink. What's in there? He asked. You tell me. He pulled it open. Empty. Just dust. A cracked jar lid. And at the back, a photograph, folded once, the edges curled. He opened it. Same man. Caldwell. Younger. Leaning against the barn, standing beside him. A boy with his face. Smiling. Holding the badge. He dropped the photo. That's me. Yes. I never... You remembered the feeling. Not the act. He bent down, picked up the photo again. The back was blank. No date. No names. He ran his finger over the crease. You said the orchard remembers. So do houses. She nodded. When someone tries to forget too loud, he placed the badge beside the photo. She sent him letters too. No. She sent him into silence. Thought it'd protect him. And it didn't. Nothing ever does. He looked up at her. Are you sure you want to stay here? She stepped to the stove, picked up the kettle. I want to see how much it remembers. He nodded. Then tomorrow we dig. She poured water into the pot. Where? He looked at the orchard again. Where the roots run crooked. And after that, we ask what it wants. The kettle hissed. The badge lay quiet. And the house, for the first time, felt like it was listening. The wind picked up that night. Not strong enough to break branches, but enough to shift the barn's slats and moan through the boards like the wood itself remembered how to cry. He couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the badge, the trunk, the letters, the well. She was already outside when he stepped onto the porch, sitting on the top step, arms around her knees, like she'd been waiting again. I think there's something behind the wall in the barn, he said. She nodded. There is. Have you been there? No. Then how do you know? I used to dream about it. The door has no handle. He stared across the yard. The barn stood like it always had. Same slant to the roof, same rust on the hinges. But now it looked smaller, like it was trying to shrink away from them. They walked out together. No words, just the creak of the gate and the dry snap of the grass underfoot. Inside, the barn was colder than it should have been. The smell of smoke still clung to the rafters from the fire pit, even though the wind had shifted hours ago. She stopped near the back wall, next to the old feed bins, pointed low. There. He crouched, brushed away a thick layer of hay and dust. Beneath it was wood, unevenly nailed. Too new compared to the rest of the wall, a rectangle, the size of a small door. You never noticed this? She asked. I never wanted to. He grabbed the claw hammer from the pegboard, started pulling at the nails. They came out slow, like the wall was fighting to stay shut. But he worked steady, one board at a time, until the frame came loose and he pulled the whole panel free. Behind it, a door, painted pale blue, chipped at the edges. No handle. He ran his hand along the edge, found a small latch near the top. I clicked it. The door creaked open. Dust billowed out like breath from a buried mouth. He stepped inside first. The girl didn't follow at first, just waited at the threshold, like crossing into it would change something. It was a child's room, small, square, barely wider than a tool shed. The walls were covered in faded wallpaper, flowers now brown. A narrow bed sat in the corner, blankets still tucked like someone had made them decades ago. A rocking chair faced the window, which was boarded shut from the outside. On the floor, a scattering of toys, wooden blocks, a stuffed rabbit with one eye missing. Everything was coated in a thick film of dust. He walked slowly, touched nothing. Then the rocking chair moved, just a creak, forward, then back. She stepped in behind him, closed the door. This isn't on the plans, he said. I know. I didn't build this. She didn't answer. He turned to her. You say I was here, but I don't remember any of this. She crossed the room, sat in the rocking chair. It creaked once, then settled. I used to wait here, she said. He stared at her. You'd come by sometimes. Never knocked. just stood at the door. I never saw this room. You never looked hard enough. He rubbed the back of his neck. This doesn't make sense. She pointed to the wall. There, in the corner. Look closely. He crouched, scraped away the dust, etched faintly into the wood, JE plus LH, his initials, alongside hers. His breath caught. I was a kid when I scratched this. 10. Maybe she was 16, the girl said. And already tired. He stood fast. No, I don't. This was just a place I played. She called it the waiting room. He turned. Why? Because she thought if she made it feel like home, maybe you'd stay. I never saw her again. No, the girl said. You left. And the room stayed. The rocking chair creaked beneath her. She kept it the same, she said. Every toy, every blanket, every time you walked past, it was still here, just closed behind a wall. I didn't build this door. Someone else did. After you left, he stepped to the bed, run a finger along the frame, dusted off a photo tucked behind the headboard. Her mother, smiling, hair braided back. He dropped it. Why show me this now? Because you needed to remember. And what if I don't want to? She stood. Then the room will wait again. He shook his head. I can't carry all this. You already are. The chair rocked empty. She stepped back through the door. He looked around once more. The dust, the quiet, the things that shouldn't be untouched, and yet were. He closed the door behind him, but this time he didn't nail it shut. Dusk folded early. The clouds hung low, heavy with something that wasn't rain. The porch boards creaked under his weight as he leaned forward, watching the horizon bleed into itself. The girl sat beside him, one hand hidden in the folds of her dress, thumb pressing slow circles against something he couldn't see. The wind shifted, then gravel, tires crunching down the long, quiet road. He stood. A truck pulled into the clearing. Black. No plates. Dustless. The driver killed the engine but didn't step out. The door stayed closed. Windows tinted just enough to reflect the barn behind them. Then the door creaked open. A boot stepped down. Another. The man was average height. Same build. Same posture. He walked like he owned the land. Like he'd walked it before, and nothing surprised him anymore. When he stepped into the light, Jonah froze. Same eyes, same nose, same crooked scar over the right brow, one he'd gotten from barbed wire at 12. The man tilted his head. Evenin', he said. The voice was his, a shade lower, rougher. You lost? Jonah asked. The man smiled. Just passing through. The girl stood now, still, hands pressed tight to her sides. You from around here? Jonah asked. The man shrugged. Was. Once. Hard to say now. You got a name? Not one that matters. Jonah stepped off the porch. The man didn't move. You need something? Jonah asked. The man looked toward the barn. Just checking what's still standing. It's private property. So was she. Jonah blinked. What? The man smiled wider, but there was no warmth in it. You don't recognize me? He asked. I recognize too much. Behind him, the girl took a step forward. I know you, she said. The man's smile faltered. She pulled the sheriff's badge from her dress, clutched it in both hands. I saw you bury Mama. The man turned to her. That right? You dug the hole behind the orchard. You made me watch. Jonah's heart thudded. What the hell is she saying? The man didn't answer, just looked back at Jonah. She was noisy, the man said. It took a long time to quiet her. You need to leave, Jonah said. She cried, the girl said. Said your name. Said you'd come. I never got a letter, Jonah muttered. She wrote them anyway. She whispered. The man took a step forward. Jonah blocked him. You take another step. I will end this. You won't, the man said. You're me. No, Jonah said. I remember now. And I'm not. The man reached into his coat. The girl raised the badge. She said you kept this because you were afraid someone else would wear it. She was right, the man said. Jonah drew the rusted shovel leaning by the door, raised it between them. You buried her? He asked. The man shrugged. She asked to be remembered. I gave her a grave. Jonah swung. The man dodged, but not far. The second swing hit his shoulder. He stumbled back, fell to one knee. You want to know who I am? The man grunted. I'm the one you left behind. You're a ghost, Jonah said. No, the man spat. I'm what this land needs. The one who stayed when everyone else ran, the girl stepped forward. You made me wait, she said. You told me not to move. Said he'd come back. Said Papa always came back. He looked at her, eyes narrow. You waited too long, he said. She raised the badge high and slammed it into the dirt. No, she said. You did. Jonah lunged. The man didn't fight this time. The weight of memory did the rest. By the time the dust settled, the man was gone. Not dead, just not there. No blood, no prints, just an empty space where someone with his face had stood. The girl bent, picked up the badge. Jonah didn't ask where he went, didn't ask who he was anymore. Some things weren't meant to be understood. She handed him the badge. He didn't take it. She placed it on the porch rail. We will bury it tomorrow, she said. He nodded, and for the first time in weeks, the wind didn't whisper anything back. The sun came up slowly, like it didn't want to look at them. He sat on the porch with the badge in one hand and the folded map in the other. She stood barefoot in the grass, face turned to the orchard. No one had spoken since last night. The man with his face hadn't come back. The girl didn't ask where he went. Jonah didn't offer a guess. Now she stepped off the porch, slow and certain, dressed brushing the tops of the weeds. She carried the badge, the map, and one final envelope, the one they'd never opened. Its edges were crisp, untouched by rain or time. It had no markings, no return stamp, no name, just a seal pressed flat and even, like someone had planned to send it but never could. He followed her across the yard, past the old fence, through the slanted orchard, toward the well. Not a word between them. The grate lay open where he'd left it, rusted corners bent backward like a mouth forced wide. She stopped beside it. He stopped behind her. You sure? He asked. She nodded once. Is this what she wanted? He said. She wanted to rest. This is the closest I can give. The wind picked up. Dry. Tired. She knelt at the edge of the well. First, she dropped the badge. It clinked against the stone, spun, and vanished into the dark. Next, the map. Folded twice. She released it and watched it float downward, spiraling like a leaf caught in a slow fall. Last, the letter. She held it a moment longer, then let go. The well didn't echo. It swallowed everything. I'm done waiting, she said. He stood beside her, hands still, eyes fixed on the pit. She waited too long, she whispered. She thought I'd come. You did. Too late. She turned toward him. Late's better than never. I'm not sure. She stood. She would be. They stepped back together. Not far. Just enough to feel the air shift. He looked over his shoulder. The barn was gone. He blinked. Once, twice. Just an orchard now. Tall grass, no structure, no boards, no door. Not even the faint trace of where it had stood. He turned a full circle. No tracks, no debris. Just open land where memory used to be. She didn't look back. He said her name. Quiet. Mara. She didn't stop walking. He caught up beside her. You see it too? He asked. She nodded. It never wanted to stay. He looked again. Still nothing. What do we do now? He asked. We go forward. Where? She didn't answer, just walked through the orchard, past where the stones bent sideways and the trees curled into themselves. He followed. Back at the house, the door was still open, the flour tin still tipped. The badge was no longer on the counter. He didn't ask where they were going. She didn't say anything. But the road ahead was empty now, and for the first time, it wasn't waiting for anyone. They didn't speak much after the well. Not that day. Not that night. The barn was gone, but the silence stayed. A thick kind. The kind that pressed on the ribs and made every board creak louder, every footstep sound like a decision. She slept on the couch again, curled toward the fire, though it had long gone cold. He sat in the chair by the window, mapless hands and sleepless eyes. Morning came gray. When she woke up, she didn't ask what time it was, just stood, rubbed her face, and opened the back door. The orchard looked the same, but the wind was different. No birds, no squirrels, just still. Something's left, she said. He looked at her. What do you mean? She walked out without answering. He followed again. He always follows now. They moved past the orchard, past the old grave with no stone. The well sat where they left it, no sounds from below. She turned before it, pointed. The house. It never let go. They circled back. Into the kitchen. She opened the cabinet above the sink again, the same place where he found the photo. Nothing there now. She dropped to her knees, ran her hand along the floorboards under the counter, knocked gently, paused, knocked again. Then she whispered, "Here." He knelt beside her. "What are you looking for?" She used to hide things. When Papa got loud, he watched as she pried loose a thin board. It popped with a dry snap, revealing a dark hole about the size of a shoebox. She reached in, pulled out a tin. Old, rusted at the corners, but sealed. He took it from her, sat on the floor. It opened slowly. Inside, a dried-out braid of hair tied with red string, a scrap of linen scorched at the edges, and a folded note. He opened the note. The handwriting was jagged. Desperate. "To whoever comes after me, don't forget this house, and neither do I." He said he'd change, but every promise made after dusk gets buried by morning. The girl remembers more than she says, and she's braver than I ever was. Don't punish her for staying. Punish him for leaving. L. He stared at the paper. "Your mama wrote this." She nodded. "She wrote it before the barn got sealed." "Why hide it here?" "She said the house was hers before it was his. She said it would keep things safe." He read the note again. His own name wasn't in it, but he felt it, between the lines, in the weight of the ink. "You think she knew what would happen?" "I think she hoped someone would listen." He placed the note back. "Inside, hold the tin tight. She wanted me to find this." She didn't nod, didn't speak, just stood and walked into the front room. He followed. Again. She pointed to the floor under the window. She used to sit there every evening, waiting for the sound of boots. "Mine?" She didn't answer. He stared at the spot, then knelt. The boards here were newer, slightly lighter. Someone had replaced them. He pulled at the edge. One board creaked, lifted. Beneath it, another envelope. No name. He opened it. Inside was a photograph. The girl, younger, standing next to her mother, both bruised, both smiling, but not at the camera, at someone off to the side. He turned the photo over. 4 words, faint in pencil. "She still believes in you." His throat tightened. He sat back. "She waited too long," he said. "No," she said. "You came. Not in time, but before it ended." He looked at her. "You want to leave this place?" She looked around the room. The cracked wallpaper, the windows that never opened all the way, the old stove, the crooked door frame. "No," she said. "I want to open it." "What do you mean?" "It was always closed off. The barn, the orchard, the room. Even you." He breathed slowly. "You think it can become something else?" "I think it already has." He looked down at the photo again, then at the girl. He stood. "Then we clean it." She smiled. Just slightly. He grabbed the broom. She picked up the tin, and for the first time, the house didn't groan when they walked across it. It listened, quietly, but not with fear, with something like forgiveness.